This week we're starting a brand new series called The Questions That Jesus Asked. And so I've been kind of thinking about this series and doing these messages for a while because a couple of years ago I was reading through my Bible. Try to read my Bible as much as I can, and I was reading through, and I was like, I'm going to read the Gospels. We'd actually went on a trip as a family, and I thought during this trip I'm going to read through all the Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And I'm just gonna highlight everything and mark things down. And as I was reading through Jesus talking a lot through the Gospels, all the different things he talked, I noticed that Jesus was asking a lot of questions. And I would read it, and I was like, he asked another question. I would sit there and I would think, why is he asking all these questions? Why would Jesus ask questions? Because he already knows the answer. Who believes he already knows the answer? I mean, he already knows the answers, but he keeps asking questions. And I'm like, why is he asking questions when he already knows the answers? And I actually learned this in I do counseling, like for couples or for people individually as a pastor. I do that a lot. And I learned from Jesus, because I think the reason why Jesus asked questions was not because he was looking for the answer. He was looking for the people that he asked the question to look inside their hearts and to find the right answer. And I found this out as doing counseling and even raising children, anybody out there, that if I tell people what to do, very rarely do they do it. You ever had that? With my kids, sometimes they're making a life decision. I say, hey, you shouldn't do this, you should do this. They don't always listen. Most of the time they don't listen, because they're like, no, I'm going to do this instead. So what I found was, if I asked them questions, they actually listened. And they would actually do this crazy thing called thinking, and they would think about things. And Jesus asked many questions because he wanted the people he was asking the questions to think about what they were doing and why they were doing it and what their answer truly was. We're going to talk about some questions Jesus asked. I'll give you a few of them. This first one I'm going to give you is pretty tough. I'm not going to tell you which week it's going to be, but it's going to be a challenging, awesome week. Jesus asked this question. He goes, why are you, I'm paraphrasing this. He goes, why are you so concerned about the plank or about the splinter that's in their eye when you got a big old log in your own eye? He said, you're worried about a splinter in their eye when you got a huge log in your own eye. Why are you even worried? Why don't you just take care of your own stuff? He's asking. So we're going to look at that. Whoever has a problem with that and looking at other people and saying, why are they doing that when we got our own stuff to take care of? And he asked that question because he wants us to look at us. He asked this question, a really cool question. He goes, what can I do for you? What do you need me to do? Who in here needs God to do something? Well, all of us do. If you don't have dreams big enough. But he asked that question, what do you want me to do for you? The question we're going to look at today, though, I think is, it's the most important question that he asked. It's a crazy important, powerful question that he asked. And as we look at it, I want us to look at it and to ask this question to ourselves. The same question that he asked his disciples. We're going to look in Matthew. In Matthew chapter 16, it says this. It says, and Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, and when he got there, he asked his disciples, who do people say the Son of Man is? He said, who are people saying that I am? Who are people saying that I am? And then they responded, and they replied, well, some say you're John the Baptist, and others say you're Elijah, and still others say you're Jeremiah or one of the prophets. And so he asked him a question. They gave the answer of what everyone was saying. Everyone was talking about him. And he said, what are they saying? And they said, here's what they're saying about you. But then he asked this most important question. And he said this, but what about you? What about you? Who do you say that I am? See, he heard the opinions of everyone else. But then he said to them, I want you to take a second. And I want you to look at your heart, and I want you to tell me, who do you say that I am? And then Peter responded. I'm not surprised that Peter responded, because Peter, of all the disciples, was the one probably with the biggest mouth. He was the one that always did things and was outgoing. And Peter responded. Peter responded with an amazing answer. Peter said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And then Jesus came back and said, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by man, but by my Father in heaven. And it says, and I tell you that you are now Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not overcome it. And I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. The most important question I think Jesus asked was who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? And I think while he asked that question to his disciples back then, I think he asked that same question to us today. Who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? And I would say this, everybody grab this. Not just who do you say I am with your mouth, who do you say I am with your life? Because I think about me, when I was a kid, I didn't really grow up in church. We went to church when I was like in first or second grade, and then my mom and dad got divorced, and we left the church, didn't go back to church again forever until I gave my life to Christ, and I wasn't really around church. But if you were to come to me and you were to say, hey, who is Jesus? I would have answered, he's God's son. I would have immediately said, I believe Jesus is God's son. If you talk to people all around the world, you talk to people of other religions, they'll say, well, he was a good man. Some will say he was a prophet. Some will say he's different things. I would have immediately said he was God's son with my mouth. But if you would have looked at my life did not say that. And so many times we will answer the question with our mouth, but our life gives a different answer. And if we answer a question with our mouth and our life gives a different answer, that means we are a hypocrite because we say one thing, but we live another. When the truth is, we need to look at our hearts and our lives when we answer this question, who do you say that I am? And I want to be honest with you, as I started studying this, I was like, okay, the depth of what Jesus was showing and what he did was crazy. It was awesome. He said, who do you say that I am? And I started thinking about it. What are the implications of this? What does it really mean? What does it really mean? What does it really mean to have the answer that Peter said and says, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God? What does it mean not just to say that with your mouth, but what does it mean to say you are the Christ, the Son of the living God? And not just say it with my mouth, but live it with my life and to show it with my heart. What does it mean to say that and not just say it, but to live it? And I started studying this story, and I found some things that really just brought light into my life. And if you're taking notes, you have your notes right there. You can write this down. To say we're the Christ, the Son of the living, to say this, to say what Peter said went against the crowd. It went against the crowd. It was not the popular thing to say. Look right before this. Jesus said, who do people say that the Son of Man is? And what was their answer? Their answer was, well, John the Baptist, you're Jeremiah, you're Elijah, you're one of the prophets. Not a single one of them gave the answer that Peter gave. Not a single one of them said, oh, you're the Christ, the Son of the living God. They all thought Jesus was someone else than he truly was. Popular opinion was he was someone else. One of the popular opinions of that time was that Jesus was coming to set all of Israel free. They were under bondage. They were in slavery to the Romans. And many people believed that he was coming to set them free. And they would say, he is going to set us free. He is going to do this for us naturally. And they had all these different images of who he was. But the truth of who he was found by his disciples. And it went against the popular flow of opinion. And people are like, well, Jesus was always popular. Jesus always had crowds everywhere. Everywhere he went, there was a crowd. And I would say, yeah, that's true. But if you study it and you look at it, many times when Jesus had a crowd of people around him, he would say things and run the crowd off. There was one time this crowd was around Jesus, a huge crowd of people, and they were all there. And Jesus looked around at him, and he made this statement. He goes, eat my flesh and drink my blood, or you have no part of me. I mean, that's a crazy thing to say. I mean, eat my flesh, hey, take a bite or drink my blood, or you have no part of me. And it says they all left. They all left except his disciples. They all left except the ones that were close to him. They all left except the ones that said, no, you're the Christ, the Son of the living God. And they did not understand that question. But you know what? They understood who he was. And I want to say this to everyone in this room. There may be times in our life where we go through situations and things that we don't understand. Who's ever went through a time in your life where you've had things happen and you just don't get it? You have things happen in your life where you have loss or you have different types of pain in your life, and you look around and you're like, I do not know why this is happening in my life right now. But here's what I do know. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And even though I don't comprehend everything about me right now, and if you talk to people in church, you're like, well, I know everything. I know exactly why everything happens. No, you're a lying, proud person. Because the truth is, we go through things sometime in this life that we won't even know why we went through it until we get to heaven. And then we might not even care. once we get there, because we're going to be in a really cool place. But what did they do? Even though they didn't understand what was going on, they said, we understand you're the Christ, the Son of the living God. Think about this when it came to popularity. Okay, going against the crowd. I think about Jesus when they took him and he was going to die. He was going to die, and they took him and they beat him, and then they brought him up in front of everybody because they had this custom they had during that time when they were getting ready to crucify him, where they would release one prisoner and let him go. And they had Jesus on one side. Jesus, what had he done with his life? He had brought joy and healing and love everywhere he went. You had this man that preached good news and set people free. And they had the choice to let him go, or they had the choice to let this other guy go named Barabbas, who was not a guy who just was late paying his phone bill. This was a guy who was a murderer, who stirred up trouble everywhere he went. He was well known for being an evil person. And the ruler got up and said, hey, who do you want to let go? And they said, Barabbas, let Barabbas go. Well, what do you mean to do with Jesus? And what did they yell out? Crucify him. Because here's the truth. Following Jesus, everybody grab this. Following Jesus is not always popular. To say you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, does not always go with the crowd. I want to read a verse to you in John 15. It says in John 15, verse 18 and 19, it says, if the world hates you, remember that it hated me first. The world would love you if you were one of its own and you belonged to it. But you're no longer a part of the world. I choose you to come out of the world so that it will hate you. How many times do we want to fit in? How many times do we want people to like us? When the truth is, to be who we are called to be, we go against the flow. I want an illustration right now. I need some volunteers. I need some people. I've got some people assigned to help. Come on up here real quick. All my volunteers, go ahead and come on up real quick and go ahead and put your vest on. You guys can grab a vest and put it on. I need some people who will volunteer, though. How many others do I need? Okay, go ahead. Come on up here. You can get a vest. Get a vest on. I need another volunteer. Okay, both of you guys come on up here. Oh, I don't know if we have enough for 3. How many do we have? How many vests do we have left? Go get your vest on. No, you can't do it. You did it last night. Go sit down. Go sit down. Go sit down. Go sit down. Don't give her a vest. Okay. No, I've already picked them. You've got to give your vest up there, Velvet. You can't have that vest. Here we go. Make sure we have enough going over there. They will tell you what to do, too. Do we have enough now? Okay. Yes, you have to give up your vest for Jesus. Give up your vest. No, you can go ahead. No, you're not going to. Never mind, Velvet. Can't tell her what to do. Yeah. Okay, here's what it looks like. Help them put on their vest. Everybody's having trouble putting on their vest. Here's what it looks like. What does the world want to do? The world has a way that it's going. It has popular belief, things that we believe, things that we say. And what are we called to do as a follower of Christ? We're not called to go with what everyone else is doing. We're called to live a separated, different life. Now, everybody grab this. I'm not saying we say we're better than anyone or act like we're better than anyone, but we live different. Because we say, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. But there is a pressure. Who's ever felt that pressure? There is a pressure to try to look like and be like and act like everyone else. There is a pressure. There is a pressure to try to fit in. A pressure to try to be like everyone else. A pressure to be politically correct. A pressure just to blend in. And everybody grab this. God never called us to blend in. God called us to stand out. But here's what happens. I make a decision. I'm going to stand out. I'm going to be who God's called me to be. And I start down that path. But the rest of society, that means come this way. When I do this, that means come this way. The rest of society is going the opposite way. And then I'm going this way, they're going that way. So you know what? I am going to hurt somebody. It is not always easy. It is not always easy. Goodness, someone pinched me. That is wrong. It is not always easy. And so what happens in the midst of the battle? In the midst of the battle, what do many of us do? Many of us quit fighting. We quit fighting, and instead of being who we were called to be, we make a decision. We're going to be like everybody else. We weren't called to be like everybody else. We weren't called to live like it. But you know what? I don't want to be different, because if I'm different, then I'll be persecuted. If I'm different, then people may say things about me. If I'm different, then everyone won't like me. And so you know what? I'm going to fit in, and I'm just going to fit in and be like everyone else, because it's easier to do that. But what happens when we choose to blend in? What happens when we choose not to go against the crowd, but to be in the crowd? What happens? I'll tell you what happens. Is we lose who God created us to be. Because we try to be what everyone else is and what everyone else's expectations of us are. And so we try to fit in and we lose us. And we don't just lose who we are, we lose the purpose that God has called us to. Because our purpose may not fit in with everyone else's plan. When the truth is, if we are going to say, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, we are going to say that and not care what anyone else thinks. So we make the decision to say, because you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, I'm not going to go with the crowd, but I'm going to make a choice to have the courage to go against the crowd. Let's do this again. Hold on. It's on. Go. Let's go. So I'm going to go, and I'm going to go against the crowd. And it's not always easy. Not always easy. You're pinching me again, and I'm not going to quit. And I will not quit. Thank you guys for being nicer than them. And I will not quit. And I fight my way. And I fight my way through the crowd. And it can be a struggle to get through there, but it's always worth it to get through it. Can I show you another illustration that helps you even more? It's on again. Come on, let's go. All you pinchers, I've got a knife. Okay. Okay, let's go. So here comes the crowd. I'm going to follow God's plan. So you know what the easiest and best path for me to take is? I go up higher. I don't stay down where they're at. I make a decision. I'm going to another level. And I'm not going to live life where others are. I'm going to go to a higher level and say, God, you be my strength. God, you be my help. God, I know I'm not supposed to look like and feel like everyone else. I know that I'm called to be different. And you know what happens when you go to that other level? You know what happens when you fight through the crowd and you don't have to be like everyone else, but you are being who you are called to be? What happens is something happens in the crowd that they look and they say, I don't like who I am right now, and I am going to be someone else. And they throw down who they were and become who they are called to be. Anybody else have enough courage to do this? Anybody else? Come on over. Come on over. No, you stay over there. You pinched me. I saw it. And I'm going to say this. Too many of them came because it's really cute and they want to hang out with me. But it doesn't matter if any of them come. We still do what we're called to do. Give them a big hand, except for the ones who pinched me. Oh, goodness. Okay, I told them I'd give them away candy. Oh, my goodness. Here you go. Who out here wants candy? Anybody out there want candy? Who wants candy? Here's what I have. Just eat your candy. There you go. Okay, I have a Hershey's milk chocolate bar. Who wants one of those right there? Anybody else want here? I have another Hershey's milk. Oh, right there. Oh, sorry. Grab your candy. There you go. Oh, you want a Reese's? There's none left. Everybody ate those. A Kit Kat. Okay, hurry. Oh, wait. Okay. Oh, my goodness. You guys are fighting over candy. Who wants a whatchamacallit? Anybody ever had one? A whatchamacallit. A whatchamacallit? There you go. Whatchamacallit. Here. Who wants another whatchamacallit? Okay. I want to see people fight over a whatchamacallit. There you go. Oh. Right in the face. Here you go. There's another Hershey's. That's all I have left. There you go. Wait, you already got one. There you go. Okay, I have two left. Oh, I like this one. Hey, honey, Kim, this is an organic Heath bar. Can I have it? Just kidding. Okay, hold on. Shh, hold on. Everybody duck. Who thinks I can make it in the sound booth? Precious Lord, I would keep my eyes. I can't see through the lights. Here we go. Ready? Here we go. Sound bar. Yeah, there you go. Everybody grab your Bibles. We're going to keep going. So to say you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, we make a decision. I'm going to go against the crowd. I'm not going to fit in. I have one left. I can't have this. I'm eating healthy. Who wants this? Okay, there you go. Okay, I am the Christ. Wait, give it to him. You just got one. Here we go. It goes against the crowd. Here's the next thought. Take a note. Write this down. When I make a decision to say you're the Christ, the Son of the living God, to say this opened up more for Jesus to show them. I want you to think about this. When Peter said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, Look in verse 19, what Jesus said back to him. Verse 19, Jesus said this. Jesus said, I'll give you the keys. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. And whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. When they came to this realization, they said, you're the Christ, the Son of the living God. God started opening up, showed more of who he was to them. It didn't just show up more of who he was to them. He showed more of what they had in them. See, when we come to this place of you're the Christ, you're the Son of God, God starts showing us stuff. When we get to this place where we don't just say it with our head, but we say it with our whole heart and our whole life, God starts, here's a few things I have down there. He'll show us this. He'll show us that he is our provider. Who needs God to provide for you? When you come to the fact that you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, he provides. He will show us that he is our peace. If you need peace in your life, you are my Christ. You're the Son of the living God. He will be our joy. He will be our friend. He will show us our purpose. And here's the fact is, everybody grab this. You don't have to be perfect to live this. I think of this dude, Peter. Peter, you know, he's sitting there. Jesus says, who do you say that I am? Peter says, you're the Christ, the Son of the living God. And then Jesus comes on, and it says later that he revealed to them in these verses, it says he started to show them that he was going to die for them, that he was going to go to the cross, and he started telling them all the things that he was getting ready to do, the reason he was there. And Peter was like, no, Jesus, no, you can't do that. And then Jesus looked at him, and he goes, get behind me, Satan. Okay, you're looking at this guy who's like, you're the Christ, the Son of the living God. Oh no, get behind me, Satan. You're looking at this dude that they're getting ready to go take Jesus and crucify him. And the soldiers come, and what does he do? He gets out a sword and he cuts the dude's ear off. I kind of think that's cool. They're going to take Jesus, I'm cutting your ear off. He cut the dude's ear off. I don't know if Jesus thought that was that cool, because what did Jesus do? Jesus goes, hey, Peter, you know, thanks, but let's put his ear back on. And Jesus put his ear back on, and it was healed. And so the dude who was just cutting someone's ear off for Jesus, a little bit later goes and denies Jesus 3 times. They come and say, hey, do you know this Jesus? No, I don't know who he is. So you don't have to be perfect to walk this out. You just have to constantly come back to the fact of you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And when I blow it, you haven't changed. And when I mess up, you will always be there to pick me up, because I will say that you are my rock. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. I want to say this, though. To say this with our whole heart and with our whole life, to say this, we have to have open eyes and an open heart. We have to have open eyes and an open heart. To say this, something has to be open on the inside of us. See, I would have said when I was a young man, if you just said, who do you believe Jesus is? I believe he's the Son of God. I had open eyes and I could see it, but my heart wasn't open. Look here in verse 17, Jesus replied and said, you're blessed, Simon, son of John, because my Father in heaven has revealed this to you. You didn't learn it from a human. He said, you're blessed because your heart was open to hear this from me. You are blessed because your eyes have seen, but your heart has been open to hear this from me. And I just started thinking through this whole process of you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, and what it looked like in my life. As a young man, you know, having my mom and dad get divorced and just ran from the church, ran from God. Didn't really want to be around God, didn't really want to be around Christians. I wasn't interested at all. I would say this, it wasn't that I wasn't interested in God. I probably wasn't that interested in church because I'd seen hypocrites in church. And I didn't want to have any part of that. I remember when I was in junior high school. And they had a school assembly. And at my school, that wasn't always a good thing. A lot of times we got in trouble because we did really bad things. We were kind of dumb. And they had a school assembly for the whole school. And they had a school talent show. So they had this talent show for the whole school, and I wasn't in the talent show, but other people were in the talent show. And we went into the gym, and you sat in there, and they had the talent show going on. And our school had some talent, but not a ton of talent. And I was kind of bored. And then this guy named John Tucker. I was like in 6th or 7th grade. He was like in high school. This guy, John Tucker, got up, and he goes, I'm going to sing for you guys. And I'm like, oh, this could be bad. And John got up, and he started singing, and I'm like, man, John's a good singer. The dude could sing. And then I started listening to what he was singing, and he was just singing about Jesus. He started singing about Jesus in school, and no teacher ran up and took the mic from him. And no principal came up and took the mic from him. And the superintendent just stood against the wall and was just clapping as the song was going. I was like, this is awesome. And I didn't think that then, but I think that now. And so John, after he was done singing, everybody jumped up and applauded John. And he goes, you can sit back down because I'm not done yet. And we're like, well, what are you going to do? And John got up after singing, and John preached. He preached there in the school gym with the whole class there, the whole school there. He preached, and when he was done preaching, I was like, he's a pretty good preacher and a singer. And he was done, and he goes, I want everybody here to bow your heads and close your eyes. And everybody in the room bowed their heads and closed their eyes. And I remember sitting there as a 7th grade boy. I remember sitting there, and as he was talking and as he was singing, my heart started beating so much that I could feel it. And then he started talking about Jesus, and I thought, man, what he's saying is true. What he's saying, I need what he's saying. I need what he's saying. And then he said, everyone in here who wants to receive Jesus, raise your hand. And I put my hands in my pockets, and I grabbed hold of my pockets, and I said, I will not raise my hand. I will not raise my hand. And about 100 students there in that school that I was at raised their hands, and they came down, and they prayed, and they asked Christ in their life. And the whole time while this was going on, it was like my heart was beating outside my chest because God was saying, Tom, have an open heart and let me do something in you. And I said no. I remember a few years later, I was a sophomore in high school, and I was driving to school one day, and I had a pickup truck that I drove in. It was this old pickup truck. It was a Dodge, but the DGE fell off the end of it, so everybody called it the Doe. And so I had I had a really nice sound system in this truck. My friends got it for me. They stole it. I'm just going to be honest. They stole it from another person's car, and they gave it to me for like $25, $30, but it was an amazing sound system. It had like the speakers right there by your head, and it had a kicker. You might know what a kicker is? When the bass would hit, you would just like, yeah, like the whole way. And so I'm like driving into school, and I'm getting into school, and I'm getting in my truck, and I'm driving down the road, and I turn on the radio to my favorite radio station, 106.9 K-Hits. And so I'm listening to one, which it still exists, and it is still called K-Hits. And I'm listening to 106.9. As I'm driving there just jamming to some music, this song came on the radio. Love will find a way. I know it's hard to see the power. Okay. And so that song came on the radio. I was like, I kind of like this song. I don't know why, I kind of like this song. And they came on and said, this song's by a lady named Amy Grant. And I don't even know who Amy Grant is. And she had it was a top 10 song on secular radio. And then she had another song, it was like a top 20 song. I was like, I like this Amy Grant. So she came on the radio one time, and I'm driving, I'm listening to her. And they said, Amy Grant's coming to Tulsa. She's having a concert at Mohawk Park. And I'm there in my truck, and I'm thinking, I get there and I stop at school, and I'm like, I want to go to this Amy Grant concert. I want to go. I kind of like her. She sounds cool, and I'm going to go to this Amy Grant concert. And I was like, well, I don't want to go to this Amy Grant concert by myself. I want to go with somebody. And I didn't want to go with another dude. I thought, I'm going to get a date. I'm going to ask a girl to go to this Amy Grant concert with me. And I'm like, I'm going to go ask somebody. And I get in. I go in. I'll make sure my hair is good, and it was good. And so I go into class, and I'm like, I saw this girl. I kind of liked her. I think she kind of liked me. And I saw her in the hall, and I said, hey, because you got to be cool. Kind of strut, you know. My friends taught me, how to walk right. None of my friends were white. I'm just walking. I'm trying to be cool, and they're like, hey, you should go to this Amy Grant concert with me. We should go on a date. Amy Grant concert. Would you like that? She goes, I would love that. She goes, I would love to go on a date with you to an Amy Grant concert. And I said, cool. I said, I'll buy 2 tickets, and I'll let you know how much your ticket cost. So I bought her ticket. I made her pay me her ticket. I did an upcharge. I made a little money off her ticket, and so then we went out to eat before the concert. I went out to eat. I paid for my food. She paid for hers. I ate all of mine. She only ate half of hers, so I ate the other half of hers. It was a good date. And then I asked her for gas money, and she gave me some. And I got home from last night after telling this story. My wife goes, "You were a jerk, weren't you?" I was like, "No, I was thrifty." And so we went to this Amy Grant concert, and we're there. I found out later my wife was at the Amy Grant concert. She loved Jesus with all her heart. She was probably one of those people down front going, woo! And I was the person in back going, I don't even know what's going on. And I didn't know Amy Grant was a Christian. I didn't know it was a Christian concert. I didn't know. And so I get to this concert, and when we get there, we find out Amy Grant's not even there. she had a problem with her vocal cords, and they said we were replacing her with this band. And I'm like, oh, great. And so I was like, well, we're going to stay anyway. We paid for these tickets. Well, I paid for mine. You paid for yours. And so we're sitting there, and this guy comes up, a guy named Russ Taff. He's like one of the singers, and he gets up, and he's a Christian singer, and he gets up and sings about Jesus, and he's talking about Jesus, and I'm like, what is this? And I start listening to him, and the whole time he's talking and singing, my heart started beating, and I could feel it. And then the next singer got up, and he was this guy, I didn't even know who he was. He was this guy named Michael W. Smith. Michael W. Smith, another famous Christian singer. I didn't listen to Christian music, so I didn't know. And he got up and he started singing, and he sang this one song I really liked. I went and bought his cassette tape. Anybody even know what those are? Cassette tape. They don't exist any longer. But I bought this cassette tape, and the song he sang, that was my favorite, friends are friends forever, if the Lord's the Lord of them. And a friend will not say never, 'cause the welcome will not end. Oh, it's okay, I'm done. And so I tried to get Colin to sing that in the first service, and he said no, so I had to do it myself. You were blessed. And so he sang, and then he talked, and he talked about Jesus. And the whole time he talked, my heart was beating almost outside my chest. And then the last band got up, and I didn't even know who they were. They introduced them. They said, now we're going to have this band, Petra, is going to come up and play. And Petra rock and roll band, and I was like, what does Petra, I remember I said this, I think, what does Petra even mean? And this guy in front of me goes, dude, Petra means rock. And I'm like, okay, breath mint. And so as he yelled that at me, and they played, and when they played, they talked about Jesus, and at the end they said, they gave this call, they said, if you don't know Christ, we want to give you a chance to come to know him. My heart is beating where I can feel it again, and I put my hands in my pockets once again, and I held on to my jeans, and I was like, I will not raise my hand. I will not raise my hand. I know in that moment, I'm just going to be honest, I know in that moment if I'd have raised my hand, the girl with me would have raised her hand. But I would not raise my hand. I said no. About a year or two later, I went to live with my brother and my sister-in-law, and I lived with them, and they went to church every Sunday. And I'll be honest with you, I hated it. It was the most boring church in the history of boring churches. The pastor was a super nice guy, but he was just a horrible communicator. I remember one of his sermons. I went there the whole year. He got up in front of the whole church, and he was like, okay, today I'm going to talk to you about Noah, but I'm going to do it totally different. He goes, I'm going to act like I'm a news reporter, and I'm going to interview Noah. And I started laughing out loud. I mean, I'm in church. I'm like, I thought he was joking, but he was so serious, and everybody stared at me. And I was like, it's just one of those churches where you didn't make any noise. You know what I'm saying? You made no noise, and I always made noise and got in trouble. And sometimes I made noise just to get in trouble. And so I laughed, and everybody looked at me. And then he goes, okay, Noah, what's the weather look like today? That was his first question. And Noah goes, well, it's kind of cloudy, but we've never had any rain, so we'll see what happens. And I laughed the whole time until I got bored, and I just quit listening. And then one Sunday, they brought in a guest preacher. Now, I had this habit of every Saturday night, I would go out and party with my friends, and then I would come, and I remember one Sunday, I passed out. Saturday night, Sunday morning, I passed out in the front yard. I passed out. I got out of my car. I walked in the yard. I passed out. And my brother went out there in the morning, and he threw water on me, and he kicked me. And he goes, get ready for church. I'm like, dude, I've been laying here outside. He goes, get ready for church. And I'd go to church, and I hated it. And I remember one Sunday I went to church, and I was with all my friends sitting in the back row. And this preacher got up, and he was preaching. It was a guest preacher, and he was one of those preachers that yelled a lot and that pointed, and he spit all the time. Just, and he was one of those guys, and he would just talk about hell. You know, you're all going to hell. You're all going to hell. And so I just was tired of it, and I just started talking to my friends, and I was goofing around in the back. And this preacher goes, and he points at us in the back row. He goes, hey, you young people in the back row, move from back there and sit up here in the front. In the middle of the service, he made us come and sit in the front row. He made us come up, and we all had to walk up there with the whole church watching us, and we sat on the front row. And then he just kept preaching, and he would preach, and he would come over to my area, and when he would look over at me, I would do something that was incredibly inappropriate in church. He would look over at me, and I remember every time he would look over at me, I would put my hand on my forehead, and I would rub my forehead, except I wouldn't use all my fingers to rub my forehead. I rubbed my forehead using one finger, and I told him he was number one. And so basically the preacher would look over at me, and every time he'd look over at me, I would flip him off in church. And so I'm there, and whenever and he saw me, because whenever he would see me do it, he would come over and say, "You're going to hell!" And he would yell hell a lot right in front of me, and I just would flip him off even more. And then he started giving this altar call. He's like, "If you're here today and your heart's not right with God," and I just been flipping him off throughout the whole service, and so I knew my heart wasn't right with God, so my heart's beating. And he goes, "If you want to know Jesus, raise your hands." All of my friends on the front row raised their hands. I stuck my hands in my pockets, and I would not raise my hand. God gave me another opportunity. He said, "Just open your heart. Just open your heart." And I kept my heart closed. And I'll be honest, I don't know why God kept giving me more chances. I'm so glad for his mercy, that he doesn't give us what we do deserve. And he gave me mercy after mercy, and he gave me time after time. And when he gave me those times, I knew it was my time, and I would say no. And then I went to college, and when I was in college, God stuck me in a room with the only Christian guy on our baseball team. I played college baseball, and the only guy who was a Christian. I got stuck with him. I got stuck with him. He said he got stuck with me. I got stuck with him. And he would pray for me, and I would cuss at him. And you know, he would invite me to church, and I would tell him nasty things that I'm not going. And I remember one time he said, "Hey, there's a concert tonight, a Christian concert. I want you to go with me." I'm like, "I'm not going to that concert, and I'm going to this party with my friends." And then all my friends on the baseball team left me. And I didn't know where the party was, and they were all gone. And he goes, "Well, now you want to go to the concert with me? You want to go to the concert with me now?" And I was like, "Well, I guess I'll go now because there's nobody else here. It's the only thing I have to do." And so I went with him to the concert. And I sat through the concert, and the whole time they talked about Jesus. The whole time they talked about Jesus, and the whole time they talked about Jesus, I could feel my heart beating once again, and God saying, Tom, you see me with your eyes, but Tom, open up your heart. And then the guy said, "If you want to know Jesus," and whenever he said that, I put my hands in my pockets because I was once again going to hold my jeans and not raise my hand. He goes, "If you want to know Jesus right now, bow your heads, close your eyes." And I just kept my eyes open and looked straight ahead, and I would not bow my head or close my eyes, and I held onto my jeans, and he said, "If you want to know Jesus right now, lift up your hands." And I looked right beside me, and my friend Rodney raised his hand. My friend Rodney, who prayed for me every night. My friend Rodney, who showed me the love of Christ over and over again. My friend Rodney, who was there and was Christ's example in front of me, he raised his hand. And I said, "Well, if Rodney is raising his hand, I definitely need to raise my hand." Then all of a sudden, it was like everything that was holding me down was broken off of me, and I raised my hand. And that moment that I raised my hand, something changed inside of me. The thing that I'd seen with my eyes, I now saw with my heart. And that night, I prayed, and I asked Jesus in my life, and I said this. I said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And I'm not just going to say it because that's what I see with my eyes. I'm going to say it because that's what I know with my heart. And I'm not just going to say it with my mouth, but I'm going to make a decision to live this with my life. Because the most important question that Jesus asked was, "Who do you say that I am?" Who do you say that I am? And I'm so glad that he gave me an opportunity after opportunity to say yes, because here's the actual fact of the matter, is if I hadn't said yes then, I don't know if I'd had another chance. Because the way I lived my life, I can't tell you how many times I don't know how I got home driving when I was on so many different things, and I don't even know how I lived through that time, except for God's grace, and he gave me another chance. And God is giving every one of us in this room another chance today. I want everybody to take a second to look at your heart all around the room. And take a second for all of us to answer this question. The most important question that Jesus asked, "Who do you say that I am?" Who do you say that I am? And maybe some of you in here are like me and you see it with your eyes, but you haven't truly opened up your heart. Maybe some of you grew up in church and you just go through the rituals, but it's not a heart thing. And today you want to see it with your open eyes and you want to live it with an open heart. To say, "God, I'm not just going to say it, but I'm going to live it." And if you are here today and your heart and your life are not right with God, but you want them to be and you need them to be, I want to pray with you and for you today. If you're here today and you say, "Tom, my life has never been right with God. I don't know him at all, but today I want to know him. Today I'm willing to open up my heart to let him do something." Or maybe you're here and you've lived for God before, but you've fallen away and gone the wrong direction. And today you want to surrender and have him do a work inside of you. I want to pray with you, and I want to pray for you today. And I want you to answer this question: who do you say that Jesus is? And the answer to that will determine the rest of our lives and where we go. All across the room, if you say, Tom, that's me. My heart, my life is not right with God. It honestly is not right with God. And today I want to surrender and say, God, I need your help. God, I want your help. God, I surrender to you right now, and I believe that you're the Christ, the Son of the living God, and I am going to not just say it, but I am going to live it out with my whole heart for my whole life. All across the room, you say, Tom, that is me. My heart, my life is not right with God, but I want it to be. Pray for me. Pray with me. Hands are already going. If you say that's me, my heart, my life's not right with God, but today I want it to be. I need it to be. Pray for me. If that's you right now, lift up your hands all around the room. Lift them up high. Lift them up high. Hands are going up everywhere. You say, my heart, my life is not right. Some of you know what you're doing. You're grabbing your pants like I did. You're like, I'm not going to do this. I'll wait for another time. I would say, you know what? I wish I had said yes the first time. I'm glad he gave me more chances, but I wish I'd said yes the first time. Because how many lives could my life have affected if I'd have said yes the first time? Don't wait for the second or the third. Say yes right now. Say yes right now and watch him turn. Watch him turn ashes, what is messed up, into something beautiful. Beauty for ashes. That's what he will do. How many of you in this room, you said, that's me again. My life isn't right, my heart's not right, but I want it to be. Pray for me. I'm going to lead us in a prayer all around the room. Tons of you in the room. Let's pray together. Surrendering our hearts to him. Everybody praying with me. Heavenly Father. Let's all pray it. Heavenly Father, thank you for sending your Son, Jesus, to live and to die for me. And right now, I surrender my heart, my life, my everything to you. I ask you to touch me and to change me and to help me live for you. My life is yours. My life is yours. In Jesus' name.